There we are. Now we're live. Say hello. Say
Wait,
hello.
are we really live this time?
Yes, we're really live. How are you, Heather?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. If you can't see, look, I'm on booties because we're at a really expensive $12.5 million house in Miami Beach. And so, what? I can't say that?
Oh my gosh, it's his first rodeo. It really is his first rodeo.
There you go.
No, we're not talking about that. Irrelevant. Why? Moving on.
It's a beautiful home.
Let's talk about us.
I will talk about us, but okay. I gotta hold on. Thank you to Nelson Gonzalez and Juliana for making this happen.
Thank you.
Nelson Gonzalez with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services, EWM Realty, something like that. Who cares? Nelson is an amazing guy, one of the best brokers, not only in South Florida, but in the country. We are filming at one of his listings that's about to close for $13.5 million. If I can, I'll show you the view as we're done. But if it wasn't for Nelson, we wouldn't be in this house shooting this amazing interview with Heather Monahan.
But thankfully, we're here rather than the last place we went.
Yeah, we were on a construction site. It was windy, rainy.
No bueno.
And
scary. It was very scary.
I have never seen Heather nervous or scared till today. So, you ready?
Yeah.
All right, so this is Heather's second time on the Closer Club. I guess I got to do my intro. My name's Alex Vidal. I am president of Related ISG International Realty. Host of the show, you're watching episode number 85 of the Closer Club. Heather joined us pretty much a year ago last week. Yeah, right now. A year ago, December of last year. If you didn't catch that episode, we talked about her backstory, staying in a positive mindset, how to build confidence.
My book, we talked about Confidence Creator because it had just come out.
Her book, Confidence Creator. So we talked about building confidence. We talked about pursuing your passions, keys to becoming a great salesperson, becoming a woman power player, and owning 2019. So that's what we discussed last year.
Which we did, and I can't wait to catch everybody up on that.
So here we go. Now today, what are we talking about? We're talking about fear. We're talking about how quickly things can change in a year. Her TEDTalk experience, which wasn't all roses, so it's going to be an interesting talk.
For you.
And here we go. All right, so in our last episode together, we talked mindset, right? And we talked about the mindset importance. But I will tell you that this year, I discovered that equal to mindset is not only understanding that everybody has a fear, but overcoming that fear. It actually held me back from reaching a few of my goals this year. So we've talked off camera about some of my goals. Anyways, so what are some hacks you have to help people overcome their fear?
Okay, I have so many because like Alex mentioned, he saw me fearful today. However, I was scared going into this construction site, but I forced myself to go, and he might not even realize it. My heart started racing. The minute I start feeling scared like that, I know in that instant I can back out of the situation, which will chip away at my confidence, or I can push through it, and then when I'm done, say, yet again, check another thing off, I can handle a construction site. So it seems very small in the situation, in the scenario, and in the moment, but those little moments across my day, my week, my month, and my year are what propel me to major moments, like when I was freaking out going out for my TED Talk and I started feeling my heart race. I thought to myself, how many times have you done this before? And I pull on those moments at the construction site and all these different times, and I start seeing that catalog of credibility that I can't do this. I have all this proof from last week, last month, last year. Go. And then I just keep creating more and more confidence within myself, overcoming fear, choosing to see it as a green light, which means go and go faster.
And I have to give Heather credit. She went, you got to understand, we're on a construction site. She's in heels. I forgot to warn her properly. We're going through staircases with no railings, like in the middle of the room.
And nothing underneath it. It's just empty. You could just fall.
Floating staircase. And then we get to the rooftop, which you felt like you could fall through the roof. It's a very sound roof. It is.
And Nelson says, and don't walk on that side.
Yes, don't walk on that side. No railing around the rooftop. Yeah. But we are going to shoot Nelson's interview. He's going to come back on from that house. You got to see it. It's spectacular. What I love about what you said, though, was having those small victories of overcoming fear. And then when you have that big fear, leaning back on those small victories to push forward.
Listen, no one wakes up on day one and runs for president, right? Like you run for state senator and state this and state. You have to do these smaller tasks in order to get to that big one. And every time I go to that next big one, last year it was my book, this year it was my TED Talk. Each time there's another major milestone that allows me to say, oh yeah, I can go for this one too, and so can you.
There you go, I love it. If you don't, Heather, while I look at my next question,
oh yeah, you can follow me. I'm everywhere. Shocker. Yep, at Heather Monahan, but really LinkedIn is my house. That's my home, and I blow up LinkedIn all day long. So check me out on LinkedIn, but I also have a website, heathermonahan.com. I have my own show. This is new too this year. I signed with Podcast One, launched my own show. My first episode was with Gary Vaynerchuk. It's so good. It's called Creating Confidence, and you can find that anywhere podcasts are found.
There you go. Oh, you got that like out of recording. So let's stay on that theme about the new year. Some people may feel bad that they didn't accomplish some of the goals that they wanted to accomplish this year, but really that shouldn't hold them back from pushing this year going forward. So share with us some examples of how quickly things change in your life this year, and what lessons did you learn from that? And then go back a couple years even.
Okay, I want to start with what Alex just said. Some people may feel badly about not achieving certain goals. I had a therapist when I was in my early 20s that used to say to me, I'd say, I'd call her and say, I'm so upset, I did this, I failed at this, I let myself down. And she would always say this, how's that working out for you? How is beating yourself up working out for you? Is it going great? Well, no, it's not actually, right? So if we sit around and say, I didn't achieve this year, and I really failed at this. Okay, is that helping to propel you forward? No, it's not. Okay, so let's take a moment and let's be intentional about this. And instead of beating ourselves up, let's say, hey, this is an opportunity for me to learn from something. I don't like how I feel when I don't go into the construction site, right?
Yep.
So I've learned to make myself go into the construction site and celebrate that moment. You can do that same thing and start reframing. So, okay, you didn't write your book this year and you wanted to do it. Okay, here's what we can do. We can be compassionate, understanding to ourselves, support ourselves, and rechannel that as a new opportunity moving forward. Beating yourself up is not gonna help you get to your next goal.
Got it.
For sure.
So talk to me about what changed for you this year.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about your TED Talk. So if you can do that without talking about the TED Talk.
Yeah, I'll talk about something else then. So for me, I look back on the past year. In January, which is in a couple of weeks, 1 year ago, I was on the Steve Harvey show, which was super freaking scary. I had never been on a show like that. I was totally out of my comfort zone. I was tapping that day. I remember behind in the green room, I was alone and I was tapping, which is a way to rechannel negative energy and kind of calm yourself down, because I was freaking out so bad. And all the other guests on the show were repeat guests. So I was like the new girl. It was my first rodeo. And I really felt like a fish out of water. But I ended up having this great experience. I had to interject myself into the conversation, which was a little challenging. But I learned how to handle a different environment, people I didn't know, and acclimate myself to a new set, which was really cool. So that kicked off my year major, which I was really excited about. Then I signed with Podcast One in May to launch my own show. And in order to do that, I really wanted to go big. So I thought, who is the biggest guest that anyone could get for a podcast? And in my eyes, that's Gary Vaynerchuk all day long. So I went through it, and it's important for you to know this. January 1, I didn't know it was going to play out like this. I didn't even know for sure I'd get a podcast. That wasn't like on one of my, I want to achieve this, I want to achieve this. One thing that was on my list was I wanted my movie to get put together with Reese Witherspoon. That still has not happened, but I don't beat myself up about it. I just move it.
Wait,
that
so
will go till next year.
You want Reese Witherspoon to play you?
No, so Reese Witherspoon, I thought we talked about this before.
No.
She owns a production company where she creates movies off of female authored books, and she produces them. So I need to get to her. I already got her my book. Maria Menounos gave it to her. So I know she has my book. I've gotten to know Sarah Blakely, who's really good friends with her. So I'm like kind of like working my way into her world, because I need to meet with her. Reese, if you're out there, I need to meet with you. And so
I don't know if she watches The Closer Club. You never know.
Maybe someone that she knows does, right? So it's like connecting those dots. How can you get to that ultimate decision maker? Okay, so that was one of the things on my list that I didn't achieve. Creating a podcast wasn't necessarily one of them. However, along the way this past year, I started going on more and more shows. I went on the Lady Gang show, which is a really big show on Podcast One, millions of downloads an episode. And the show did extremely well on the episode I was on. It was number 17 or something on the podcast charts. And so I took that opportunity to email the CEO of Podcast One and say, thank you so much for having me on the Lady Gang. Yeah. I'm actually in Beverly Hills. I would love the opportunity to come and meet you and thank you directly. And was I going in there just to thank him? No. But I saw it as an opportunity to get a face-to-face meeting with an ultimate decision maker, sit down with him. And when I was in that meeting, I didn't go in hard pitching him on me.
Sure.
I just went in there being thankful, grateful, talking about how great the show was, how amazing his platform is. And 15 minutes in the meeting, he said, you know what? This is crazy. You need your own show. And I said, you think so? Okay, great. And so now I'll tell you what was interesting from that moment was he's the ultimate decision maker, but he has a huge team of people that are working with him to support and execute. I only had that one relationship with him directly. Luckily, I made a relationship with his executive assistant, which is so critically important, especially when you
taught me that, by the way.
Oh my God, it's so important, because when you move far away, and I live in Miami and they're in Beverly Hills, I need someone on my team touching him, saying, hey, don't forget about Heather Monahan. So anyways, his executive assistant helped me immensely, but it still took months to sign the deal, months. And so it ended up getting signed in May. And during that time, I had pursued Gary Vaynerchuk. I couldn't get to him directly. I was freaking out. So I Googled him, and I saw in the news he just launched a new company called Empathy Wines, and he had a partner named John Troutman. And I thought, I bet it's easier to get to John Troutman than Gary Vaynerchuk. So I reached out to Trouty directly. He immediately responded to me on LinkedIn. I've got a lot of credibility on LinkedIn. I encourage you, if you are not aggressive and committed to LinkedIn, elevate your profile and really get active, because people will go check out your profile. They'll see your accomplishments, your reviews, your recommendations, and say, this person's the real deal. He called me back immediately. Once I was on the phone, I offered to help him with the wine business. I've got a lot of experience in the wine business, not just drinking it, but I actually used to sell wine and sold quite a bit of it. So I said, Trouty, I'll help you move a lot of cases. I have something I'd like to ask you. And he said, what is it? I said, can you help me get an interview with Gary? And he said, done deal. And so that's how I was able to get Gary as my first guest.
You know, there's two things I really love about what you said. A few things you said about that I took out of that. One is you leveraged the hell out of the relationships that you had, right? Number one. Number two, you opened your eyes to ideas that necessarily weren't on your radar in the beginning of the year, since like the podcast. And those two alone are really, really cool. And the other thing is that going back to the relationships, if I had 3 business lessons I learned this year, one of the 3, I'm not going to share them all because I want to do a video on it, is how do you leverage the relationships to go even bigger? That's awesome. Good for you. All right, TED Talk. So if you haven't seen Heather's TED Talk, it's absolutely amazing. There's very few TED Talks I can sit and watch the entire thing without jumping out of it and then coming back to it, okay? Talk to me about your TED Talk. More importantly, let's say the scenario or what happened to you going into your TED Talk and what happened to you after, and what you learned from both of those experiences.
Okay, well, one thing I want to share first is I thought it would be easy to get a TED Talk. Who wouldn't want me to give a TED Talk? Oh, hello, wrong. Nobody wanted me to give one. So I applied. I took out a Google alert on TED Speakers Wanted. So anything that you're trying to achieve, always take out a Google alert on that so that you're always getting pinged when there's an opportunity available. So I was sending out 100, 200 pitches about me. Here's a great speaker reel of me. Here's why I'm a great TED potential speaker. I made the pitch all about me. Ultimately, I was told no hundreds of times. And then I ran into a woman who worked for TED, and she said, you should give a TED Talk. I said, I know, but no one will say yes to me. She said, tell me how you're pitching. I shared it. She said, well, you're doing it wrong. I said, how do I do it right? She said, research the venue, research the theme. These people are all volunteers. You need to cater to them. You need to pitch to them and give them a compliment. Sure. So start making it about them instead of you, which is sales 101. I don't know why after 45 years I disconnected from my sales expertise. I was so focused on wanting to achieve this goal that I lost sight of how do I sell them on me. So I shifted gears, I researched the theme, I researched the guy that was the head, and wouldn't you know, I ended up getting the TED Talk. A month before I'm going to give the TED Talk, I still didn't know how many minutes I got. I still didn't know any of this. I had come up with the idea of C students to the C-suite. Reason being is essentially I was an average student and I got to the highest level that you can get to in corporate America. And I don't think that's by chance. I think that most people that are creative, innovative leaders aren't necessarily the A, get in the box type people, right? So it's kind of breaking apart and re-looking at that relationship of students and grades, et cetera, and success. So that was my plan. I was excited for it. And I get a message, hey, we don't like the talk that you were going to give. Why don't you go ahead and come up with something sexier? Okay. So I'm like, what does sexier mean in TED Talks, right? I was very frustrated to say the least. A very nice woman talked me off the ledge, and she said, we want you to push boundaries. You're not pushing yourself far enough. Go deeper into you and your tough moments in life. Well, I knew that was about me getting fired, right? So exposing that publicly and with a goal being of getting millions of views, you have to be incredibly vulnerable. So stepping into that vulnerability, I decided to rethink the relationship of women bullying women in the workplace and the Me Too movement only looking at men as harassers and instead expanding that concept, that movement to include well, we can't just look at men as the bad guys at work. Oftentimes, the worst person is another woman. So I took on this really massive concept. I knew people were going to hate it. There was going to be people, anytime you're unique and different, people are going to come for you. So there was that element that was a little nerve-wracking. But then I got word, you have 10 minutes to talk. I was like, what? How come Mel Robbins got 22 and Tony Robbins got 27 and why do I get 10? Sure. Because believe it or not, it's much more challenging to give a good talk in 10 minutes than it is in 20.
Oh, 1,000,000%. Because you got to squeeze it all in.
Some people don't know that. Some people don't realize that.
Try to squeeze it in 10 minutes. It's hard.
It's very hard because you want to share a big idea. You want to share a personal story. You want to involve and engage the audience. And you want to achieve a goal and impart some knowledge. In 10 minutes, that's freaking impossible. Yeah. It's really, really hard.
By the way, people experience that on the show. I tell them it's like 15 minutes. They're like, oh, we have 8 questions. How am I going to get that in 15 minutes?
Yeah, it's impossible. We can't do it. And you're probably wanting to kill me right
now.
No.
By the way, I do want to say something, and I don't want to interrupt. There was another lesson learned that you said in the other thing, which was about your social media and the importance of LinkedIn.
Oh my gosh.
I keep telling these realtors, your social media is your resume.
I made you get aggressive on LinkedIn because you used to not do it.
And I still do it incorrectly, but at least I'm there. But I keep
yeah.
trying to tell people, you will get stalked by a potential buyer and seller, and ultimately your online presence is your resume. Or if you ever want to go get a job, people will look at your social media. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to digress.
No. That's a great point, and so important for everybody to know that. Who cares if you do it wrong? Just do it. You got to show up.
Go back to TED Talk.
Okay.
So here you are, 10 minutes before, the day before, right? When you were prepping for the thing. Walk us through the emotions that you were going through.
No, so the day of, this is the day of, I think that this is the story you're teeing me up for. The morning of, we had to go to the venue. They wanted to do a walkthrough. I had my eye patches on, wet hair in a bun, sweatpants on. Needless to say, I was not in like my speaking armor that, I wasn't in my mode, my zone. I was just kind of like, okay, hurry up. I want to go get my hair and makeup done and get ready. And they said, Heather, hop up on stage. You're going first, and we want you to do a dry run. Okay, whatever. Hop up. They mic me up, and everyone starts getting serious, and the light comes on me. I'm in my sweats with my eye patches. And it's funny now, but you guys, this was not funny. I want to cry for me. It was so sad. And all of a sudden, I started thinking, I'm not ready right now. Oh, like, what am I going to do? Well, whatever, just do it. So I started speaking. Because I wasn't I do like this whole preparation. Anytime I speak, I have a playlist that I use. I walk through my notes. It's sequential so that the minute I start entering into that habit, that routine, sure. I get into a mindset that nothing will stop me. I wasn't in that mindset. So I'm speaking for a couple of minutes, and all of a sudden, I went blank. Never in my whole life, as you can imagine, seeing me now, I never am at a loss for words. Ever. So because this was the first time this ever happened, I really started panicking. Not like scared going to the construction site. Panic that I've never felt before. Oh my gosh, how am I blanking? What if I blank when this is real? The head of the TED venue starts laughing on a microphone and said, Heather forgot her speech. All right, Heather, that's enough, you're fine. He thought it was funny, that it was no big deal. Yeah. I did not. I'm walking off the stage and this woman says to me, oh my gosh, you're just like my friend that's in the NFL. It was his big game and he missed the kick. And I looked at this woman and I said, this is not helpful. Thank you very much. And I yelled to the head of the TED Talk, I've got to leave right now. And I needed to get out of there and surround myself with people that love me, support me. I needed my music. I needed my Drake. I needed my Kanye. I had to get in my zone and start rocking out because I literally started crying when I got in the car. Oh my gosh, I'm surrounded by jackballs that are being mean to me. I'm forgetting my speech I worked so hard for. What if I blow it today? So anyways, I went, I got ready, I got in the routine. I get back, you're speaking with all these people that have never spoken before. I'm not used to that either. People were doing push-ups, running in circles, sweating. It was awful. And I just wanted to go to a green room and leave, but there weren't any green rooms. You were just in this big area with everyone freaking out. And all of a sudden, a volunteer walked up to me and handed me a lavender wipe. And lavender is super calming. I smelled it. I started rubbing it on my nose. I'm like, can I get this inside of my head? And I started calming down. And they said, Heather, you're on. And I just closed my eyes because I was so not ready. And I said, if you don't walk out there right now, you will never forgive yourself. If you go out there and blow it, I'm going to be so proud of you. And And I just removed all the expectation and pressure from myself, and I walked out and I owned that red dot.
Boom! All right, I got a few takeaways from that. One, your routine.
Yes.
Right? So you think about a realtor, like when Nelson goes on these big listing appointments, right? We were just at a $20-something million house. This one's 13 and a half. He's probably so conditioned now that he's got his own routine. I have my own routine, by the way. I actually listen to Bette Midler to calm down, her slowest, sappiest song. It zens me down. Then I put on. I go. Oh, I can't. It's a rap song. It's a pretty nasty rap song. Then as soon as we're done, I get in the car and I put on. All I do is win, no matter what. And then I have the Lil Wayne song, drop the world on your effing head, right? And that's my routine. I go through it before and I go through it after, right? So I love the fact that you have a routine. I also love the fact that you looked at it and said, what happens to me if I don't do this? You're going to regret it. So, what do you have to lose? Let's go out and then do it. And that to me is the biggest one. I think so many agents or people in general are just so afraid of trying that, the fear of not doing it should be bigger than the fear of actually doing it.
Absolutely.
All right, let's wrap it up. Because before I ask you the last question, talk to me about the hate that you got and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, so this is funny. I knew, as I said, I was going to get hate because I was taking on the Me Too movement and reframing it to see it a different way. So I was very aware that was going to happen. However, that was not the most hate I got. The hate that I got is about how I look. And I actually was fat shamed. There were women that watched my talk and they came away and direct messaged me, what I took from your talk is you need to lose weight. And it was so funny because that was very unexpected. I'm not, like an overweight person. No. So to me, that was shocking. And these are these weird moments in life you can't prepare for, right? I was prepared for someone to say, how dare you take on the Me Too movement? I was going to be able to walk through that. But saying that I was fat, I didn't know how to handle that. That took me back to being like a little kid and being picked on when you're a little kid, right? And I ended up sharing it with my son, and he said, Mom, here's the thing. You're not fat. However, maybe the person that sent the note is fat and they feel bad about themselves, so they're trying to attack you. And I thought that was really introspective because I hadn't thought about that, right? So of course it's about the other person, but you do feel badly when people say you look like crap. You're like, oh, I thought I looked good that day. Darn. Anyhow, so what I decided to do was put this to work for me. So I took that fodder and I created a LinkedIn post about it. And basically that post went viral and has hundreds of thousands of views. And basically I just said, listen, people are coming at me. They're fat shaming me. I don't think that I look fat in the video. Regardless of if you think I look fat or not, I would appreciate if you would leave a comment about the content of the talk, because that's the whole reason why I got up there. So I got a lot of views out of that, a lot of shares, a lot of comments, and a lot of support, which ended up being really cool.
And I commented actually very similar to your son, right? That they're probably just talking about themselves. They had an issue about the way they looked and they were just reflecting it, or they were the actual bullies that you were talking about, and the only thing they could do is attack you on the way you look.
There you go.
Okay, so we know you have Confidence Creator. We know you're working on another book. That'll be soon to tell, right? You're probably going to have another TED Talk soon. So if you haven't watched your TED Talk, go just Google TED Talk Heather Monahan. If you could recommend another book that our viewers should read after reading yours, what should they read?
Another book. I am obsessed with this book, Flippin', The Flip Side.
Okay.
He's all about, we all tell ourselves a story of our life, but it's actually based upon lies, what we were told as children and what we're told to believe. And it's about rewriting, that third story for you. It's not the one you've been told you have, the one you've been telling yourself you have, but the one you're holding the pen and creating for yourself.
There you go. All right, I'm going to go behind and turn off the camera. You rocked it for a second time, as always. Any parting words for the audience as I go around?
Oh my gosh.
And happy holidays, by the way.
Yeah, going into 2020, don't just look at what your goals are for the year. Look at what you did accomplish. Be kind to yourself. And when you start celebrating those things, it's going to set you up for a great year.
There you go.